Hey everyone, I'm Joe. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm here with a replay of a match that I had against a deck that I believe is referred to as Nick Wave. It's a particular variation on mono green devotion that looks to capitalize on the power of Genesis Wave, which, for those of you unfamiliar, is a sorcery, 3 green and X. Now these decks can produce insane amounts of mana. You're going to reveal the top X cards of your library, and you put any number of permanent cards with converted mana cost X or less from among them onto the battlefield, and the rest of them go into the graveyard. So imagine you have 10 mana. You can play X is 7, and reveal the top 7 cards of your library, and as long as they're under 7 casting costs, they all go straight to the battlefield. So that includes lands, actually. If it was 7 lands, they would all come out onto the battlefield. So very, very, very powerful card. It just requires a lot of setup. So that's what this deck is all about. If we look at these other cards in the opening 7, which is an obvious mulligan since there's no lands, we see a lot of ramp stuff going on. We've got Birds of Paradise and Lotus Cobra. Makes sense, again, since you need that mana for Genesis Wave. Eternal Witness can recur lands, can recur removal, can recur basically anything you need to recur. Primeval Titan, another ramp option, also just a very good beater. Trample gets a lot of lands onto the battlefield. Garruk Wildspeaker untaps lands, can make beasts if the board state demands it. So, as I said, that's going to be an easy mulligan since unfortunately there's no lands. On my side of things, I have 3 lands, 3 Merfolk, and an AEther Vial. Easy keep. Looks like the opponent is on the play this game, and they go down to 6. We see here 1 forest with a Utopia Sprawl. That's a sketchy keep, especially with 2 Spellskites. It's a little bit bold playing 2 Spellskites in the main deck, but let's see if the opponent kept that. Oh, they did. Pretty weak. They're going to scry, and they like what they see. We'll see what that card was when the opponent has his draw step next turn. They're going to start off with Utopia Sprawl, naming green. I'll lead with an island and AEther Vial, having drawn into another AEther Vial. The opponent left land on the top, so that's pretty good. They still don't have a lot of action though, only with this Spellskite here. They're going to crack this Windswept Heath now, getting a Stomping Grounds into play tapped and use the Utopia Sprawl Forest to put Spellskite out. It's good protection for, I guess, like a Primeval Titan, or anything else that they need to protect, but I don't know. Running 2 of them like this makes for hands that you have to keep with 2 Spellskites in it. So I was clarifying that the opponent did in fact name green. Usually people actually type the word green. Here the opponent's just put a green counter on it. So AEther Vial gets a counter. I'll play my second island. I drew into a Master of Waves, which is great. Play out a Silvergill Adept, revealing a Master of the Pearl Trident, drawing another Master of Waves. So the hand's rounding out very nicely. Opponent drew an Arbor Elf, which is an awesome combo with Utopia Sprawl. Lets him make 4 mana a turn with this 1 land. So he taps and plays his second Spellskite. Now, if we look at how things are going right now as far as mana is concerned, if the opponent chose to go with with Genesis Wave next turn, as things stand, he's got access to 2, and then untap for 4 mana and 5. You can only search 2 cards and put 2 drops into play. This card doesn't really work well with X equals 1 or 2 or 3. You really need it to be up there around 4, 5, 6. That's when it gets pretty spicy. Now, the opponent could play Garruk next turn. He can tap this for 2 and then untap it for 4. Play Garruk, float mana, and untap 2 lands and get another 4 mana. Pretty explosive. We'll see how it goes. Probably depends a lot on what he draws next turn. So I drew another land, which could be good with these 2 Masters of Waves. As it stands, with 3 mana, it's perfect for Merrow Reejerey. I'm going to swing in for 3 damage, see if I can lure the opponent into blocking. With these double Spellskites, I have to assume he's ready to throw one of them away anyway. He's going to go ahead and block my 3 power creature, and I'll kill off the Spellskite. Oh, wait, did that go through? What happened there? Could have sworn he blocked that guy up, but he chose to take it. A little bit strange. Why does he need 2 Spellskites? Anyhow, I guess we'll see. Drew an Eternal Witness, which is pretty good because he needs land, and there's land in the graveyard. So let's see how he goes about this. He taps and untaps the Utopia Sprawl. So 4 mana for Garruk. He's going to float that green mana, and then use Garruk to untap these two, giving him access to 3 more mana. So Garruk ticked up. He went from 3 to 4, and the opponent will tap this again for 2 more mana. He's going to play Eternal Witness, probably. Let's see. Playing the Eternal Witness, getting the Windswept Heath, playing the Windswept Heath, and passes the turn. Okay, so this turn I'm going to be able to start casting Masters of Waves, start taking advantage of Reejerey triggers. Now Garruk's ultimate only requires that he ticks up once, so he's sitting now on 4 loyalty, and he can give all of his creatures +3/+3 and trample. He's got 4 creatures out now with 3 power already represented, plus another 12, would be 15. It's quite a lot. Garruk generates a lot of value in these decks, especially once they get Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx, out on the board, because he can untap that every turn and let it generate just absurd amounts of mana. So next turn, if we think about it, the opponent's going to be able to tap and untap this for 4 mana, and then 5 and 6. He can untap 2 more lands with Garruk, and make 3 more mana, so he can resolve Genesis Wave for X equals at least 6 next turn. Incredibly powerful, but I, as you can see, am starting to press my own advantage here. So after some thought, I'm going to cast a Master of Waves, choosing to tap one of his spell skites. That guy's the best blocker right now on the board. So he does tap him, and I'm going to make 5 tokens here, bringing 10 power with me to the board on top of the Master of Waves 2 power, which is buffed by these guys. So all in all, 14 power with 1 creature. Quite a lot. I'm going to turn all these guys sideways. Not a lot the opponent can do about it. It's a 3-drop, a 3-drop, sorry, a 3-3, 3-3, and 4-3. He can stop 3 of it, but then he would have to take the 7 over here. Looks like that's what he's prepared to do. All right, so the opponent goes down to 8. Sorry, what's happening here? Oh, sorry. I missed it too. During the game, I said Garruk with everybody. So the opponent wants to protect his Garruk. If he didn't block Silvergill Adept, then he would have taken 4 and be off the board. Instead, I'm forcing the opponent to chump block with his Eternal Witness, which is great because, as I mentioned a couple times, this is a green Devotion deck, and Eternal Witness has 2 green symbols in its casting costs, which can potentially contribute to really explosive mana turns. So looks like the opponent's just going to take 3, or rather the Garruk is going to take 3. He's going to go from 4 down to 1. I'm going to slow that guy down a little bit. And the opponent doesn't take anything because I was throwing everything at Garruk. Looks like I'm threatening lethal next turn. But as I was mentioning, the opponent is going to get to go a little bit crazy with this Genesis Wave. Draws Courser of Krufix. So I don't know if he's going to play that now, potentially try to get another land off the top of the deck, or just go crazy with the Genesis Wave. Again, we've got 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mana coming as it stands to cast a Genesis Wave for X equals 6. Alright, so here it is. Genesis Wave. And he didn't reveal it, but I pretty much got to see everything that he found. He found a Primeval Titan, a Forest, and 3 Mana Dorks. Pretty impressive. And Primal Command went from the library to the graveyard. Where did this Nyx... Oh, sorry. So he went and fetched Nykthos and Kessig Wolfron with the Primeval Titan. They come into play tapped. This is not a deck where the lands can come into play untapped, like Amulet of Vigor. So Genesis Wave for 6, very, very powerful, but I've got quite a board here, and I'm going to be able to cast another Master of Waves, making all these guys into 3 power. So I'll go ahead and cast that guy, tap down his Primeval Titan. Now the opponent chose not to redirect it to a Spellskite. It's possible they didn't do that. I don't think they thought very much about it, but in order to do that, they would have had to pay 2 life. And with all these guys coming at them, it's possible that might have pushed lethal sort of over the edge. So I get to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more elementals, and they're all 3/2s now. And it looks like a turn where I might just want to turn everybody sideways, especially since I have all of these guys to block on the next turn. I do give it a good think, though. Just turn everybody sideways. It's 15 from the tokens, 3, 3, 4, and 4 over here. So the opponent has 5 blockers. And let's see, if we think through this, my biggest creatures are the 4 power ones, right? So 4 and 4. Let's assume that he blocks those. And then if he blocks 3 of my, with these other 3, if he blocks 3 of the rest of the guys who are all 3 power, it'd be 1, 2, 3, leaving 3, 3, 3, and 3 for 12. Let's just double check that. If he blocks 5 guys, with all of his 5 guys, he's going to be left with 6 plus 6, 12 damage. So let's see how he chose to block. So let's see here. It's a little bit confusing. So did it all go according to plan, or did he miscalculate something? So he blocked Lords. I'm not sure exactly how he played this out here, but it looks like he did take 12 damage, or is intending to take 12 damage. Yeah, so that's how it went. I rushed through that a little bit with the replay. The opponent is going to get to try to activate Kessig Wolfrun, make a lot of mana, and sort of go crazy with this trample creature. He's not going to get any help from the lands that enter, since they enter tapped. He does have access to Nykthos and a lot of Devotion. If we start counting it up, the opponent's going to think about it. Let's check the Devotion now. Well, he might play some stuff out first. Let's go ahead and fast forward a little bit. He's going to tap for 3 mana and play out the Courser of Kruphix, which makes sense because he's going to get extra value. Alright, so he's tapping those 3 for the Courser of Kruphix. Plays Forest. He'll gain 1 life off of that. Now, the opponent appears to be floating mana, but I don't think that that's actually the case. He's just being a little bit sloppy with it as of right now. Gains a life. Okay, so it drains out the mana. Taps now for red and green. Or 2 green, rather, to activate Nykthos. Now it's time to start calculating. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So every time he gets to activate Nykthos, he's making 8 mana. So that 2 should shoot up there. Well, back down to 0 and then up to 8, I think. So there it is. Went up to 8. It's going to tap this Arbor Elf here to untap that. And with Garrick, he's going to untap the Utopia Sprawl and the Nykthos, I guess. Just gone a little bit crazy here. It's becoming a little hard to follow. Looks like he's up to 17 with 1 red. Activating Kessig Wolfrun requires green and a red, and then X and tapping the Wolfrun itself. So he's nowhere near. He's not even at 20 yet, and I've got 12 toughness between my elementals and an additional 3 toughness with this Master of Waves for a total of 13 toughness. So I think the guy has to get up to like something like 33 for the X on Kessig Wolfrun. He's doing all of this on his main phase as well, and then chooses to attack before applying the the mana. So I think he realizes into it that he's going to attack with like 3 different creatures, and whoever I don't block, or whoever I don't block sufficiently, he's just going to dump the mana onto the other guy. But I'm asking the guy, are you doing all this mana stuff during your main phase or what? And I'm just giving him the benefit of the doubt, saying he's going to do it like after I declare blocks. So kind of giving away the game, his game plan. But seeing that he's pretty much tapped out now, he's got just that much mana, which is only going to allow him to, I think, let's see, 1 and 1 leaves him with 17 and tap that. I think this guy is going to get up to like a 23 toughness creature. So I'm just going to throw all my elementals at him. 10 toughness. Not going to be able to get through all that. Even he can dump it all into Spellskite. 17 damage will get across, but it's not enough. So, opponent says, good game, haha. So, you see how crazy these games can get. But Merfolk is able to, with 2 Masters of Waves, totally match a Genesis Wave board state. So I took game 1. Let's go ahead to game 2 and see if that one was as bonkers as the first game. So on my side, I have an Aether Vial, so it's probably just going to be a keep. On the opponent's side of things, I have 2 lands, an Arbor Elf, a couple of Eternal Witnesses to get back fetch lands. Looks pretty good. It looks like he had some sideboard tech with Chalice of the Void. Maybe they don't play a lot of 2-drops, so maybe it's sort of safe for them to play Chalice of the Void on 2. So I think maybe 2 keeps here. Opponent's on the play. He's going to lead with Forest into Arbor Elf. For my turn, I draw Spreading Seas and go ahead and just play out an Aether Vial. Looking for another land on my side. The opponent draws another land on his side. He's going to crack that Wooded Foothills for a Forest. Tap all 3 for the Eternal Witness and get back that Wooded Foothills. Pretty efficient play on the opponent's side. Aether Vial will go up to 1, and right on time I draw my second land. That's pretty excellent. I'm going to play this Harbinger of Tides, bounce the Arbor Elf. We can see next turn he was going to have access to 4 mana, which would have allowed him to land his Chalice of the Void on 2 if he wanted to. Alternatively, he could have played Garruk Wildspeaker, untapped some lands, made a beast, whatever he wanted to do. But as it stands, I'm going to bounce this Mana Dork, slow him down a little bit. Instead, I guess the opponent's going to be able to crack another fetch land, play another Eternal Witness, get back that land if he wants to. Let's see. What's the plan here? Well, no, he just plays the Arbor Elf. I guess he's leaving the Eternal Witness in hand to get back something a little more valuable than a Wooded Foothills. Aether Vial on my turn goes up to 2. I draw into a second Aether Vial, and without too much land, it looks pretty appealing getting the second Aether Vial out on the table. Now, the opponent's deck, I think, cares a little bit more about Devotion than my deck. They need a lot of Devotion to get Nykthos online and really rev up those Genesis waves. I'm going to choose to dismember his Arbor Elf before he gets a chance to use that guy. Again, the idea just being slowing the opponent down as much as possible. And since I had the extra mana available after playing Aether Vial, now's a good time to use that. After having done that, I think I got in with the Harbinger. As I was mentioning, the opponent's deck cares a little bit more about Devotion than my deck does. So I didn't think he would trade, but he did go ahead and trade. It's no problem. I've got more creatures. And I'm happy to take the opponent off of his Devotion. See, and here's Nykthos right on time, as the opponent has 0 green Devotion. Chalice of the Void on 2 is actually a pretty decent play here. I have an Echoing Truth and a Spreading Seas, which are both rendered useless by the opponent's Chalice of the Void. With Merrow Reejerey and Master of Waves in hand, it's an easy decision to take both of the Aether Vials up from 2 and 0 to 3 and 1. I'll play this Mutavault and attempt to resolve Spreading Seas on Nykthos, but the opponent remembers his Chalice trigger and counters my Spreading Seas. So I'll pass the turn, planning on getting Merrow Reejerey in on the opponent's end step with Aether Vial. Opponent draws into a Primal Command. He's going to have exact mana to resolve that thing if he wants to this turn. Let's see how he chose to play it. Cracks his Wooded Foothills, gets a Forest. Interesting that he's not getting any Stomping Grounds. So they're tapping 4 lands for Garruk Wildspeaker. Untaps 2 forests, and we'll be able to tap that for 3 mana to bring in Eternal Witness, getting back the Arbor Elf. So a pretty effective turn by the opponent. He's going to pass a turn, and I'm going to bring in Merrow Reejerey with my Aether Vial. So the opponent actually, even though he had a very productive turn, getting 4 Devotion onto the board, advancing his Planeswalker's Loyalty, he might have been better served casting Primal Command and using using the mode where he puts one of my Aether Vials on top of my deck, just because I drew into a Harbinger of the Tides. I'm going to be able to get a huge Master of Waves out even through this Chalice of the Void with my 2 Aether Vials now. So after thinking a little while, I'm going to activate the Mutavault and swing just with the Mutavault as a 2/2, swinging at Garruk right now. The opponent chose to just chump with the Eternal Witness interesting play. And I'm going to pass with my 2 Aether Vials up. For his turn, the opponent drew into Spellskite. Again, kind of clunky in this deck, I think. Starts off by putting the Arbor Elf into play. Actually, I'm sorry. What happened here? Okay, so yes, he played the Arbor Elf, floated a mana, and then used Garruk to untap his 2 forests. So he's then going to tap 4 more lands for 5 mana and resolving Primal Command. The modes he's choosing here are, let's see. He's going to bounce my Aether Vial on 2, and then just trying to find out what he's... Okay, and he went ahead and fetched a Primeval Titan. So in response to this, I'm going to bring in Harbinger of the Tides. There he is, and let's see what happens now. Okay, the opponent plays a land and passes, and on his end step I get to use my second Aether Vial, as I mentioned, to bring in Master of Waves, creating 4 elemental tokens, bringing a lot of power to the board. And I drew the Aether Vial that I put on top. I'm going to get to activate my Mutavault here as a 4/4 with the Master of Waves and the Merrow Reejerey on the table, and just swing in for a bunch of damage. I think at this point, with only the Arbor Elf on the table, I don't really care about Garruk, so I tell my opponent I'm going to attack him. Now, if we count it up really quick, it's 8 among the elementals. Reejerey makes it 10, and then we've got 3, 3, and 3, so it's 19 coming at the opponent. Let's see how he chose to block. He's probably just going to block the biggest guy. I think, actually, he just blocked somebody other than Mutavault, and then would have ended up taking the 8, 10, let's see, 3 and 4 for 17. So let's see how the blocks went. I remember something went a little bit strange this turn. He's hoping that I don't have another Master of Waves to vial in. I don't. So, okay, he was at 18. If he blocks, I don't know why he's blocking. I guess he wanted to trade with one of my creatures, and he could trade with an elemental instead of just jumping. But if he does that trade, it's going to be 8 plus 9. Is that right? Let's see. No, I think I'm doing this wrong. It's 4, 3 and 3, which is 10, plus this 8 would be 18 for lethal. He was at 18 prior to the attack. So I just told him Mutavault is 4. I think a lot of people forget about Master of Waves Lord effect for elementals. So the opponent's just going to block Mutavault, and instead he's going to take 16, leaving him at 2 life. I don't know what card he's hoping to get out of it here, but I think he said he had 1 live draw or something. So let's see. Well, whatever it was, this is certainly not it. He can play out his Primeval Titan, but I've got way more than enough to take care of things. So that was it. The opponent scooped it up. So Nick Wave, Mono Green Devotion using Genesis Wave, which we saw get resolved with X equals 6 in the first game, bringing out 5 permanents onto the battlefield. A very interesting deck in Modern. Not one of the sort of top-tier decks, but it's good to see people having fun with it. So leave any comments if you have it, as always. Subscribe if you haven't yet. I always appreciate that. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thank you.